Righty. Well, first of all, I just want to thank the Boston Ujima Project for inviting me here tonight. It's a pleasure to be here and to dine on the fantastic food here. I just had the best greens I've had in a long, long time. So, already. My name is Gregory King. I'm the current acting president of the Boston Community Solar Cooperative. And so how do I
You
get to
can,
the next
he's
one?
gonna actually give you this computer spot to hit the screen, and then this is so people can see it.
All righty, so how do I go to the next one? Okay, so next slide. All right, so I'm gonna start this off with a little bit of a question, for the audience. How old is planet Earth? Any guesses?
4.6 billion.
You know the answer. And that's correct. The Earth has been around for 4.6 billion, as in B years. But my next question is, when did the Industrial Revolution start?
Yeah.
Anybody? Any guesses? Okay, we stumped everybody. Okay, so the Industrial Revolution is generally credited to have started around the mid 18th century. And why is this important? This is important because of this. We're killing our planet. And we're killing it in record time. So if you think about the totality of the existence of planet Earth, and you look at the last less than 200 years of human activity, you will quickly begin to understand that the use of fossil fuels to heat our homes, to drive our cars, to power our factories is poisoning the atmosphere. And we are on a unsustainable pathway, using our current technology. So we're literally at a tipping point, and I'm sure all of you guys have seen some of the disaster movies, about the climate crisis. Those movies are becoming a reality. Every day I turn the TV on, there's a horrific tornado or a wildfire or a hurricane or some other natural disaster that is killing people and destroying property. And those are the precursors for an unlivable planet. So we have an opportunity to use new technology to replace what has historically been a fossil fuel focused economic system. And in doing so, we are able to create some brand new opportunities. And so next slide here. Oops. How do I get to the next slide? Which is page down.
This.
That arrow. Okay. All right. And so I often use this analogy. If you were developing a country today, starting from scratch, what would be the first thing you would do? Would you dig ditches and lay wires, or would you go wireless? You go wireless, right? I mean, it's obvious. And so what we know now is that there are better ways for us to generate energy that don't require fossil fuels. And why is that important? Well, if you didn't have to refuel your car or refuel your power plant, you can create a stable, cost structure. So what we're looking at is a transition. We refer to it in the business as the energy system transition. It's a huge opportunity. And it's an opportunity to go from a legacy system that's dominated by large corporate investor-owned utilities that dictate how much you pay for energy and distribute it in a very inefficient way. By the time they generate it, they put it on transmission lines, distribute it. There's power loss all along that way. To a new reality, which is more of a local system, a system that has solar and other resources, batteries, technology that's available for families and that allow communities to potentially control these energy systems, and take it out of their hands. And how big is this opportunity? According to McKinsey, it's 165 trillion. That's a T. That's a big number. To decarbonize, power generation, transportation, building and industry, and agriculture. So in that $165 billion investment is a tremendous opportunity to lift entire communities up. Because we are going to have to change billions of machines. Think about the machines that you drive, think about the machines that are that heat your home, think about the machines that power our factories. They all got to be replaced because they're all contributing to the decline of the planet. And if, my father used to say, if you don't take care of your body, where else will you live? Right? So, if we have to look at our planet as, our home, and that we have to protect it. So enter the sun. Solar energy is inexhaustible. It's available worldwide and has an economic value. No one owns it, and everyone's entitled to a share. And so solar arrays, these are technologies that have been developed over the last, 30 or so years. They convert light to electricity. It's like magic, right? I mean, imagine, a business where every day the sun shines, you generate revenue. Well, that's the business of the Boston Community Solar Cooperative, because every day, once we have our arrays operational, sun shines, you generate revenue. So revenue is from the sale of electricity. And of all the things we use and rely on, I can't think of any more important thing than maybe food and water than electricity, right? I mean, if anybody's ever been in an extended power outage, you completely get the reality of how important the energy, our electricity system is. And the beauty of the solar world is it pays for itself, because you invest in, it's capital intensive, you invest in the array. There are no moving parts, it's solid state electronics, so it's typically can last for 20 years with little or no maintenance. And it generates every day the sun shines. It degrades over time, but a gradual degradation. And so in that world where the sun shines, we convert to electricity, we sell it, is an opportunity for communities to own it. And so at the Boston Community Solar Cooperative, hold on a second, let me see here, go back. At the Boston Community Solar Cooperative, we believe in a future powered by the sun and owned by the community. And so we're taking what's traditionally called community solar, where you don't have to have a solar panel on your roof. It can be in a parking lot, it could be somewhere located on the grid, and we can use that centralized solar set of arrays to power different homes. And we can offer a discount because it's cheaper to produce power this way. And so we can enter into a long-term 20-year contract. So often when I talk about it, I'm saying people have to recognize there are a couple of advantages. Not only am I going to lower your cost, I'm insulating you from the utility rates that keep going up and up and up and are all going to keep going up. There's an old expression: you want to pay a premium for something, give it to a monopoly. So the way utilities are organized in the United States, they're literally monopolies that can print money. And so we're developing what I refer to as community solar 2.0, which means that we are organized as a cooperative. It's a member-owned. Members make all decisions. We have a flat organization. Everyone participates. Our cooperative is set up to design, build, and operate multiple solar arrays. And then we can sign a purchase power agreement with a business like the Dorchester Food Co-op, or with a consumer that we can offer you a 20% or greater discount. Our members are paid a salary, but they also earn a share, meaning that they have a vested interest in cooperative. And our vision is to generate profits that can be shared with our members as passive income. Imagine getting a check every month because of sunshine. And that's the business that we're in. So as I said, it's all about wanting to use this opportunity, this energy system transition. Well, we got to replace these systems anyway. So why can't the communities own it? Which is the question I asked myself a few years ago, saying, why can't communities own these assets? We can. There's no there are barriers, capital barriers and some complexity, but they're manageable barriers. And it's an opportunity for us to seize control of the very thing we rely on. And that's the most important thing about this is, I can't think of a more important movement than the movement to own the energy system we rely on every day, right? And so this is our vision. And what we want to try to do is create a movement beyond Boston. So we're focused on Boston, but we want to create a movement. So our Boston project is really focused on addressing the significant disparities in access to clean energy. This is pretty a phenomenal figure, but less than 1%. The state of Massachusetts has been developing solar systems around the state over the last 15 years. Only 1% of all that aggregated solar capacity is being used by low income ratepayer. People of color being locked out of these systems for all kinds of reasons, just like they locked us out of owning homes and other things through redline. So we're trying to change that dynamic by enabling communities to own the new solar arrays. We need to decarbonize building, transportation, and power generation. Everything that's going on in this ecosystem, AI, all power hungry. We're going to need more and more power. And this is the opportunity for us to step in to this world and own these assets and not allow our communities to continue to be served by parties that are not aligned with our own interests. So our model is pretty simple. We're the co-op builds a product, sells the power either back to the utility or or what we refer to as a subscriber or to a business. And then we use that technology to pass on a benefit to our members. And so the economics of a solar project are pretty simple. It's a lot of one-time costs. So there's site acquisition. We got to lease the roof. There's permitting. We got to get a permit to build on top of a rooftop or in a parking lot. And then we got to buy the panels, buy the racks, the inverters and meters. So, typically 85% of a solar project is capital equipment. And so the revenue comes from the sale of discounted electricity. So we can sell at a discount and still generate good profits. And our costs are, primarily leasing the site, insurance, and some reserve for equipment that could go bad over the life of the. So it's a very lucrative. I belong to a solar association, and all of these are all privately owned, primarily white-owned solar developers, and every one of the CEOs of those companies is driving a very, very expensive electric car. I mean, not the 100,000 guy. I'm talking about the ones that cost, lots of money. And so our initial project is over at the Dorchester Food Co-op. It's a mixed-use building, affordable housing, and the Dorchester Food Co-op. It's located in environmental justice, and it qualifies for a 30% investment tax credit and a bonus 20% tax credit. And because it's our project, we're engaging people of color. So our contractors are Black, and our engineering company is a Black-owned company, and our goal is to build our ecosystem of support among elements that have been underutilized, right? I mean, well, part of the reason in Boston we have so few Black-owned businesses of any scale is because we've always been at the bottom of the demand side. You know, we get the crumbs. And so this in our model, we have three kinds of owners. We have a worker owner. This is somebody who joins up, pays $100 membership fee. They gets paid a weekly salary, and then can earn shares. We have subscriber owners. These are people that buy the power from us. So it could be in the case of Dorchester Food Co-op, we have one subscriber. It's they're going to use all the power we can generate on the roof. And then we have another class of member, which is an investor owner. This is something we're not currently supporting or actively recruiting for, because we want to get our business operational, start generating revenue. We've also talked about establishing a solidarity fund so that if somebody couldn't afford to buy, maybe they're a community leader doing community organizing work, or we want to be able to offer some free shares in the co-op in areas where we're doing development, which we think is a very important part. And this is like a typical project financing. So, you know, we're able to secure grants and gifts. We can raise money through our investor pool, small micro amounts of money. We're also able to sell tax credits. So these investment tax credits that we qualify for are bankable. So there are exchanges where you can go out and sell your tax credit. And that is something that is new, that gives us a new financing tool. So imagine getting 50% of a $300,000 project financed through selling your tax credits and not having to borrow that money. And so that's how we're actually getting equity into, or at least our plan is to get equity into our projects, is by using this. And then your expenses are like, you know, the equipment, the construction, there's some design work, and then there's a small amount of overhead. But once you're operational and the sun is shining, the business looks very good. And so this kind of looks at, this is like a slide that kind of explains all the parties that are involved in this, whether it be grants and a fiscal sponsor. So we've had some money that has come through as grant through a fiscal partnership we had with a company a group called Energy Allies. There's traditional lenders, there's bridge loans. There's a great group, national group called the People Solar Energy Fund that we've been working with. And that's another source of financing, you know, for our project. Money's not our challenge. To be honest, the challenge that we have today is finding suitable properties, rooftops to do development, partly because in Boston, where particularly if you go downtown, you got tall buildings, you get shading, so there may not be enough solar energy that gets to the roof. There are some parts of the city where the grid congestion makes it difficult. And so we're out looking for more sites and asking anyone who wants to join us to check us out. We meet every Monday at 5 o'clock. We have one of our other members here, Sam, who's been, wasn't one of the founders, but who's gotten involved and been incredibly important asset. And so our vision of how we want to grow is we want to grow our members by growing our capacity. The reason this is important because we want to generate that passive income. So right now, Sam, correct me, we might have 8 or 9 members, somewhere in that range. We want to expand that, but I want to expand it in a way that ensures that there's going to be profits to be distributed to our members. Next slide. So what's unique about it is it's owned by the community, as opposed to some private company. It's governed by the communities. All decision we make is made as a group. We bring the issues up, we debate it, and it's energy democracy, or in practice, can be financed by the community, using small amounts of money, designed and built by the community, and then discount on energy. So it's a win-win-win, for all parties. So what are the advantages? So passive income generation, a reliable source of funding, local control, job for community members, can scale up. It's very low risk, because unless the sun stops shining, then we got a bigger problem. But it's a low risk, pays for itself, and it has environmental. But often I look at this as more of an economic opportunity. It's not just a clean energy, but it's the opportunity. So some of our challenges are site acquisition. Sometimes we have issues with creditworthiness of people who might, we want to borrow. They want to sign a PPA. So for instance, the Dorchester Food Co-op, because it's a new organization with less than 2 years of operating, we're likely to have some credit enhancements if we want to get any loans for that particular project, because banks want to see 3 years of financials. They're very rigid, and even if they're profitable, it's still possible. And then we're looking to expand our staff. And some of our tools for financing this stuff is, as I mentioned, bank loans. We can give bridge loans, grants, investment tax credits, construction loans. We can sell renewable energy credits, is another way to monetize. There's some local solar incentives that we qualify for that pay you additional money. And then, of course, there's the equity investment. And that's it. This is an example of a solar panel and how it works, array. But it's a very simple business proposition, but it's a very powerful one. And what we hope to see is a future where every community begins to recognize that they don't have to rely on the utility to, essentially rip us off. One of the things that really, in my consulting world, that really aggravates me is that when you pay your utility bill, you think you're only paying for the cost of generating electricity and distributing. But you're paying for the solar program, and you're paying for the Mass Save Energy Efficiency program. So we're all paying for it, but we're not all getting the benefit. I mean, the reality is that very few communities of color are actually, and they designed the system intentionally that way. So, for instance, if you want to replace your heating system, it's a rebate. It's not so you got to come out of pocket with the cash in order to buy the thing and then put your rebate in. If you're a wealthy, family, then that's not a problem. But if you come from a lower moderate income family, that's a huge challenge. And those systems have been designed essentially to help us, just low income communities subsidize the consumptions of the wealthy communities. Almost all of this solar stuff is installed to the benefit of wealthy households. And we're subsidizing it because the developers who built it are getting a subsidy out of our individual rates. So that's really the opportunity for all of us to think about how can we control our energy future? How can we use this new technology, this requirement, the reality that we got to switch it all anyway. So why can't it be us that control it? So for that, I'll open it up to questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Greg. We actually have a question
that arose in the while you were talking in the chat. So Kiana asked in the chat, are you looking for a certain sized roof? Can it be residential?
The answer is, we do look for a certain size roof, and it could be it could be residential. I mean, we're currently looking more for large flat roofs that are, would be zoned commercially, but there's no reason that we couldn't do a rooftop project. Again, we are a developer, we can do rooftop, we can do ground mounted, we can do canopy. You know, it all depends on the project economics and whether or not, you know, we're able to provide a financial benefit to, and that's site specific, because again, there's just some sites that we don't get enough sun because of shading and other factors, equipment on the roof. So there are a lot of different variables, which is why I mentioned site acquisition is so important. But you know, if you have the beauty of what we do, is that if you gave us an address, we can give you an estimate. We can use Google Earth, we can look at the site, we can establish how much solar radiation or tools we have, and we can generate a proposal. So we're very open to look at any projects. You know, we're startup. We're a hungry startup. We want to prove this can work, so that it could be a model for others to follow.
Thank you, Greg. And I have a quick follow-up question. Are you able to just say offhand anything about the size that you're looking for? Are you able to provide any numbers right now, or is there a place where we would go to get
Um,
estimates?
so in terms of like sizing, yeah, that's a really interesting question. Again, I would, I want to refrain from closing the door on possibilities, because there's so many variables. So a good sized roof may turn out to be unfeasible because of the grid congestion, the location of the site from a substation. There are just so many variables. I think in general, you know, we're probably looking at wanting to have, and I'm going to maybe defer to Sam. Sam, do you have any sense of to what might be a minimum size roof that?
With the prizes, the smallest one we've looked at is the church.
Right.
I had a little bit of trouble hearing that on Zoom. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah, Sam, speak up.
I'd say the smallest size, the smallest size has been maybe like a 1,500, 2,000 square foot.
2,000 square. So Sam
Yeah.
saying the smallest size that we've seen that looks viable is about 2,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So, but again, I would encourage anyone who knows of a building that might be suitable to get in front of us. I mean, it's fairly easy for us to quickly evaluate that building right from our computer. We don't have to go to the site. And you know, we are our challenge as an organization is really how do we get sites, good sites to develop on. It's not unlike the real estate business, right? Where you want to build housing, you got to find suitable property. So solar is the same way. We're going to build something there. It just happens to be something that generates cash and that has low maintenance costs, which makes it very attractive to do.
And we're also exploring the possibility of funding, like smaller.
Yeah, yes, that's Sam made a good point that one of the other things that we could do is if that we had a group of rooftops that are small, we can connect those rooftops through something called a virtual power plant. So that's another option. So again, I wouldn't let the size of the roof become a determining factor. Give us a location, let us look at it, and we'll let you know.
Thank you, Greg. We have another question in the chat. Tamashi said, thank you for this educational presentation. And she asked two questions. The first is, are the installers unionized? And the second is, does the collective offer training opportunities to be on the teams?
Yeah, so the answer is, in Massachusetts, in order for the actual solar, system to be, approved, there typically needs to be a licensed electrician, involved in at least the wiring and sign off on the project. So there's a union, component to it. And as far as training goes, there are training programs. There's at least two training programs that are new that I'm aware of. One's being, organized by ABCD. And the other one is a group called CWS down in, North Station, which is, focusing on returning citizens. And if you were interested in getting involved as a member of the cooperative, you would have an opportunity to learn from the other members. It's, Sam, I don't know if you knew anything about solar when you started.
Yeah, certainly not.
Right, right. So Sam is a person who has become a member. He's taught himself how to do financial modeling. He's taught himself how to do solar design, with support from, other members of the co-op. But so we're, this is all about, us working together, lifting each other up. So our motto is around inclusiveness. We want people to come in. If you're interested in becoming a member, you can join. We meet every Monday at 5 o'clock. Come in, introduce yourself, let us know. And, we would consider, adding you, to our mission, because we're looking for, people that want to learn. You don't need to have any pre-existing knowledge. We'll work with you to get you trained. It's more about wanting to, ensure that people have an opportunity to, learn while they earn.
Thank you, Greg. Nicole has a question.
Thank you so much. Yes, and thanks, Greg, for your really informative presentation. I have a question just about how you define sort of meaningful benefits from solar and in the context of like multifamily housing in particular. I know that for some of the Solar for All funding, that there's sort of a requirement around sort of like 20% like of the, yeah, there should need to be like 20% benefit to tenants or something akin to this.
Yep.
And, that's not always possible in certain types of multifamily housing. And so I'm just curious how you think about how to, really make sure low income residents like benefit from solar and what community benefit agreements look like for solar when you're not going the full 2.0 route with the co-op.
Yeah. So, thank you for that question. So, we have been, thinking about, various different ways that we could use, the revenue we're generating, as a community benefit. So one, idea I've been researching recently is the, creation of something called a solar trust fund. It would be a fund that gets fed through the co-op that could then be, designated, for a community to invest in a community project, whether it be supporting, retrofitting of a recreation center or, recreational equipment or things of that nature. So I often think about the, benefits of what we're doing as, our ability to, as a cooperative, leverage our, be highly profitable and leverage our profits as an economic tool that creates, more than just the environmental benefit. As you, alluded to, there's, a new program coming online for Solar for All, which is going to finance project. It's requiring a 20%, but it's not requiring that the people that develop the solar are community owned, right? So who's going to come in? The usual suspects. They're all going to come in, they're going to use that financing to enrich themselves. I'm saying, let's use that financing to enrich ourselves, right? That's to me, the big benefit is once you have a cash generating asset like this, you have some options, to leverage, to do good, the passive income from families, solar trust fund, a solidarity fund that could pay for membership or pay for investor shares. The sky's the limit. I mean, the sky's really the limit. It's really up to you, all of us. And the beauty, again, of this model is the fact that it does pay for itself. And if you can figure a way to reduce the amount of debt that you have to, that's the key to unleashing the cash that then becomes the tool you can use to help your communities improve their situation.
Thank you
Hopefully
so
that
much.
answers your question.
Yeah, super. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Kiana has another question. So Kiana asks, how is this project related to or compared to co-op power?
So it's related to Co-op Power is another community owned solar developer. They are actually been around longer than we have. We were originally going to be a Co-op Power subsidiary, but one of the things that we didn't like about the Co-op Power model is they have sort of I'll call it a hub and spoke model where there's a central organization that helps support the solar development. But it's controlled by a board of directors that are located in places like New York or Vermont or places that we didn't feel represented us. So we wanted to have a solar cooperative where the governance is local, and that we, meaning the Boston Community Solar Cooperative, could make all of the decisions, where we get money, what terms we give, without having to go through a corporate or a centralized organization that may not be as connected to our communities that are going to decide whether or not what we could do. So that's part of the reason why we decided to go up on our own, and not go become what we call Power calls a community energy corp. It's just a subsidiary that ends up paying money back to them. My view was we could do it ourselves and we can keep the money in our communities.
And Kiana says, thank you for that answer. Very helpful for me to understand. I think we have about seven more minutes per question. So I'd like to ask a question less about your project specifically, but I guess more about the climate conversation in general. So you started off the presentation saying we are killing the earth. What do you think? What's your sense of how much we understand the urgency of this conversation? I guess it's the first question. And
Yep.
if you think we collectively don't understand the urgency as much as we should, what do you think is required for us to get there?
Yeah. Yeah. So unfortunately, we live in a society where misinformation is being used as a weapon against our best interests, right? So, and not getting too political, but the current administration is very much against clean energy, and they claim that they're for cheap and abundant energy, but the most cheap and abundant energy comes from things they're trying to terminate, like wind turbines. The reality is that their position are dictated by their support from the oil industry. It's a big multi-billion-dollar. Some of the most wealthiest companies in the world are in the oil and gas business. And those people do not want to stop selling oil and gas. This is a threat. And so they have flooded the zone with a lot of misinformation, much like they've done recently around DEI, around environmental justice. It's a very intentional effort to support certain groups at the expense of other groups. And if you know anything about, what's been happening in the news for the last, for the first several months of the new administration, they were talking about this desperate need to cut federal spending, to lay people off without notice, and to do all of these things because we have a budget crisis. So what did they just do? They just made a proposal to increase the deficit by $4.5 trillion. That's a bill that's in Congress right now. So on one hand, they're saying we got to do all of this. And the way they're going to do it is they're going to cut Medicaid. They're talking about cutting food stamps. They've already cut low-income fuel assistance program. They want to do that on the backs of the people who have already been marginalized and exploited. And they're not even being shy about it. I mean, it's out in the public domain. So I think the climate crisis is urgent. We have a unique situation where we have an administration elected by, a majority of voters, based on a lot of, false information, misrepresentation of the facts, that is, working against the best interest. I mean, many of the states that are most dependent on Medicare are red states. So these people are about to screw their own contingency. So I think in response to your question, we are in a serious problem. I think the reality is that we are faced with the reality that there's going to be little or no federal support. There's going to be an effort to dismantle everything, to slow it up in the interest of Trump. It shouldn't surprise anybody if someone wants to give him a 700 or whatever that jet he's getting. It's coming from an oil, from the Middle East. He's over there cozying up to those folks in an effort to line his own pockets at the expense of anyone else. So I think the climate crisis is here, is front and center, and we're going to experience some of the worst consequences of it, because not only is he talking about getting rid of getting rid of tax credits and doing a bunch of other things, he's also talking about laying off weather forecasters and dismantling FEMA. So that can't end well. I mean, imagine not being able to predict these storms. It was just a bunch of tornadoes in Wisconsin and Minnesota. If you saw the images, the big trucks and cars were thrown all over the place, 135-mile-an-hour winds. That's going to become more and more commonplace because we've reached a tipping point. I mean, all scientists have said, we are now in a very, very bad place. So many of the things you see in those disaster movies could become a reality. And so our new administration is only going to amplify the problem because they are going to try to do everything they can in the interest of their oil producing funders to prevent this from happening, even if it means sacrificing a lot of lives and destroying a lot of property. Doesn't matter. They're still getting their money.
Okay.
That's how they think.
Thank you, Greg. And
That's my.
thank you. We have one more question, and this will be the last question. So Kiana asked in the chat, that brings up a question. I think I heard you mention being able to use the power generated directly. Would these grids be able to provide us energy in the case of a traditional power grid collapse?
Yes. It depends, again, on how the system is configured, but there are ways that you can configure your system so it sits behind the meter It can be either on the grid or off the grid. Some people call this thing a microgrid. So there's technology that you can use to isolate yourself in certain, say your uh, hospitals and other critical facilities could be supported by systems that aren't coming from the central power plant, but from a local generation source. So the answer is yes.
All right, thank
All
you.
right,
Greg.
thank you.
And that will close us out. So if we can, on Zoom, all come off mute and give Greg a round of applause. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
And where can
Thank you, Greg.
find you, Greg? I think Tamashi wants a job, so I think she probably wants to try to go to the Monday meetings. Where can
Yeah. So
find you?
you go to Boston Community Solar, it's that co-op,
All right, Boston Community Solar.
that co-op.